Microsoft Excel 2003 Charts and Graphs Part 1. We're going to take a look at how now we take the data, we take the stuff of our worksheets, and we produce it into something that everyone says, ooh, ah, as they look at our graphs and charts. So we've moved into charts and graphs and how we're going to use them. Now, it's going to actually take us 2 videos to get through all the information on charting. But in this first one, we're going to take a look at the chart wizard and how we use it, and even how to use it to modify the chart that we're trying to create. Finally, we get to the part of the video where we get to draw the pretty pictures on our spreadsheets. Yeah, we're talking about charting. Now, we've seen already how to put clip art on, and that's fine. But what if I want to show the data that I've been putting into my spreadsheet and actually allow people to see it? No problem. Let's go ahead and open up a sample example, one of the ones that I spent a lot of time, you can tell here by looking at it. Okay, fine. It isn't the best one that I've done, so sue me here. But what I've done is, let's say we wanted to take a look at Acme Incorporated, the sales ending the week of week number 4. So week number 4 sales. And we'll even say it's instrument sales, okay? This is the version of Acme Incorporated that sells instruments. But we still got our good buddies, Dan, James, Jeremy, Christina, and Debbie. So go ahead and make that a title. Grab these and do a merge and center here. So week number 4, instrument sales. Sounds good. Okay. So this is what we're going to chart. We want to see with a chart, because all charting really is, I know it can sound hard, and trust me, there are some really advanced charts on here that'll just blow your brain. But for the most part, we are comparing data along a Z, X, and Y axis, if we're doing 3D ones, the nice, really chunky looking ones, or the X and Y axis. So I can grab information like I do right here. Let me go ahead and just grab all the data that I want to chart. If I didn't grab the data and I just hit the chart wizard, which is just right up here, later on it would say, well, what data do you want to utilize in your chart? So in this case, it's a lot easier, just real simple, to go ahead and grab the data, come up here and click on the chart wizard. It's on your standard toolbar. It also can be found up here in the menu under Insert Chart. So we'll go here to our standard toolbar and click on it, and it says, all right, here's the chart wizard, step 1 of 4. Which chart type? Now I could stay here for days and tell you all about the different types of charts. But the nice thing is you have your standard types here, like a column. That's probably the one we're going to use. You have your bar, line. You even have XY scatter diagrams that can compare pairs of values. And it shows you the subtypes, the different ways that you can present the information. Now, you can do it this way or that way or this way or that way, and it gives you the description. And check this out. Have you ever wondered what it might look like? Down here, press and hold to view sample. I love preview. So I click on this, and it shows you this is what it's going to look like if you put this chart together. And wow, okay, look, it's got Dan, James, Jeremy, Christina, and Debbie on the lines, and shows how their sales went across the days of the week. Very nice. Okay, that works for me. I can also do donut ones, and they show you what the donut would look like. The infamous pie chart, and you can have several, the way that it does. Press and hold and say, yep, see, here you go. It's kind of showing you what it's going to look like based upon the information that we have. Let's go ahead and stick with the column. And we can do it where we separate each person into individual column. We can do it like this. It's kind of got a 3D visual effect. I always like that one. We can even do it where we can compare them across the categories and cross series. We'll stick with just this 3D visual effect and click Finish. What? You mean I don't have to click Next? Well, I'll show you that in a minute. But if I click Finish, watch. It goes ahead and it creates for me a very simple chart. And notice the chart is now an object. So I can pick the chart up and I can move it over here and show people exactly what's going on behind the scenes. And it describes to me what each one of these areas are. You can see I'm taking this data. Then the purple highlights the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which is down here. And then the green is going to give me my legend, and that's the information that I'm using right here. If I want to resize it and get it a little bigger, I merely take and drag on any one of the little anchors here, and we can do this so it makes it a little bigger, a little easier to see. We can see here's Dan, James, Jeremy, Christina, and Debbie. So now if I wanted to look at this information, this is a whole bunch of numbers. But we can see that on Wednesday, Christina rocked. See, I can roll my mouse over and it says, hey, here's the value. Here's Jeremy. He had 532. He's the little cream yellow color. If I scroll over here to Christina, it gives me the tooltip saying this is Christina. This was Wednesday, and she sold 963. It just gives you the values on how it came up with the chart. Well, what if I want to change this? And what's 1,000? Is this the amount of? Is it cash? The amount? Monday, Wednesday, Friday. What's this all about? I mean, I know what this legend is, but can I tell who the salespeople are and all that kind of information? Absolutely. We can manipulate or modify a chart. So if I right-click on it, it gives me all the different options that I can have, including the chart options themselves. So I click on chart options, and it brings it up, and it says, okay, what do you want to do? You got titles, axes, grid lines, legend, data labels, and the data table. Start off with the titles. That's a pretty simple thing. The title is just simply, what's the overall title for the chart? And I can say week number 4 instrument sales. And when I do that, it says, okay, well, I'll add that to the title of the chart. Now the category X axis is going to give me the information down here, and I can say the days of the week. And so it puts it down there. And then the values, how much? Well, what are these values? That's a serious question here. Well, I'm going to say that the values are going to be units sold. So that is now going to go right there, and see, it just automatically fills it in, says, yep, units sold. So now it's starting to look a little bit better as a chart, and I could hand this to somebody and they'd actually understand what it is I'm trying to say. Now the axes, this is where you can either hide or show certain information if you want. If I deselect the value, it'll take it away. You won't see that. I can do the category X. Well, if I take that, it just doesn't show that information anymore. Do I do it by the category? Do I do it by a time scale where it'll give me the dates? Because, just figure starting with the very first of the year of 1900. That doesn't help. So instead, I'll just do it automatic, because then it takes from, I'll move this aside, it takes from the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and places it here on our chart. So that's what the axes are for. Now the grid lines, this is where we can choose to hide the grid lines, and that's how you can kind of see where everything is. So right now on the z-axis in the back, which is kind of your foundational wall back here, I got the major grid lines. If I want, I can do minor grid lines, which will give me a little bit more, or I can just take all of the grid lines out, and you can kind of guess and use an eyeball. Major grid lines, those are pretty good. I can also do the x-axis and add kind of the plus or minus. I could add grid lines here to kind of show the separation between the days and minor. Whatever you want. Again, this deals with the grid lines that we have. The legend is important because, look at this. Do you want to show the legend of who is who, which color? You can turn it off if you want. You can also say, where do you want to put it? Right now it puts it over to the right. Well, maybe I want it on the left. Maybe I want it in the corner. Or maybe I want it over here on the top. Wherever I want it, I can select it here. The data labels, and here is where you can kind of control what the label contains and what it has. Whether it's the series name, it'll put the labels on instead of just the smart tips. I can do category names, and it'll put it on top of the chart. I can do it for the values as well. So now I get the exact values at the very top, so I could see. Now this one might be a good legitimate thing to have, because now I know the exact number instead of having to roll over the individual columns or something like that. I mean, it makes sense, right? That way I can see it a little bit clearer. And then finally, you have the data table itself. And the data table is going to, whether I allow it to show the data table or not. Well, what is the data table? It's where I got my data, right? So if I click on this, it will then produce a little data table at the bottom showing where all that information came from. Now, right now it's getting a little messy because it's a small object, but let me go ahead and click OK, and we'll show what it shows up. And see, I mean, this thing is like, wow, it's kind of messy. To do this correctly, I'd probably have to expand it out so that way everything could fit on to it. And see, I'd have to make this a fairly big. And so sometimes, even though it's good to have certain pieces of data, you might say to yourself, you know what, I need to fix this. This looks horrible, and it's not really helping. Especially if you're planning on taking this and maybe inserting it and inputting it into a PowerPoint presentation. You can do that. You can copy this information to a different worksheet or a different area. So let me go ahead and right-click here, do the chart options. Let's go ahead and get rid of this information here, the data labels. We don't need that. The legend, we'll put it over here to the right like we had it before. And let's see, what else did we get? Okay, we got that, the axes, automatic, titles, days of the week. So much better. We have a little bit more information here. So now when I click OK, much better. It looks a whole lot better. Now this is if I went in and I just did a basic chart and I clicked finish. Remember? So let me go ahead and we'll right click, we'll clear this out. We'll take it out, and let's do it from scratch and start over. And let me show you a couple other options here. When I just did that chart, remember I selected the data and then I just hit finish, once I got into the chart wizard and I selected the chart. You can make more decisions when you do run the chart wizard, and it's probably good for us to take a look at it. Let me go ahead and click the chart wizard again, and here again we get our different types of chart types. I also didn't get a chance to show you the custom types. There are custom types of charts where you can do area blocks. Looks like this. I mean, take a look at how cool that is. You got black and white area charts. You've got the colored lines. You got the blue pie kind of, that's really flashy. And sometimes you might want to do something like that. Yeah, I like that. The exploded blue pie chart. It's kind of like a blueberry pie. And if you've got kids, you know what exploded blueberry pie looks like. Not a good thing. You can do cones. You can, make it look like a topographical map. There are many different types of charts. A lot of them. I haven't counted them all, but there are a lot. You have to take my word for it. You can also define, user define. You have the built-in ones. So let's go back to standard types. And let's say instead of doing the column, I wanted to do maybe a bar chart, which is essentially, it's a column chart that's been rotated 90 degrees. And we can put the data on if I press and hold it. Because, see, I'm just showing it this way instead. Now, there are other things that we can do, but once we've picked and chosen, depending on what part of the world you're from, which one of these we want to use, we can just click on the next, and then it moves to the step 4, which is the data range, or do we want to use a different amount of series? In this case, it takes what we selected beforehand and automatically populates the data range. And where do you want the series in? Do you want to do this in rows? Or do you want to do it in columns? Well, when we are doing it in rows, we were showing pretty much from based upon a person. But what if we wanted to compare the people side by side versus, doing it like this? Maybe we want to do it in columns. Watch what happens. Oh, now we get to see Debbie compared to herself on how well she did on each individual day. You see how that works? So it's different. The series, the data series, depends on what is being placed along that axis. So let's try this one. Well, let's compare each other, or the people, I should say, Christina and Jeremy, against themselves. See how well they did sales-wise based upon which type of day. So that's my data range. If I wanted to add different series to this, I could do it, and I could give it a different name, and then I can add these, and I can use the values and change the values that I'm going to measure. The values are, and let me move it over here to the side. If I select it right here, it'll show you. For Monday, it chooses these values, but maybe I want to choose more values for Monday. I can do that. If I come over here to Tuesday, it's going to say, all right, Tuesday is this column. It's sheet 1, D4, right there. That's the category series. And then the values, guess what? These are the values that are going to correspond with that particular category. So you can see how Excel is building this step by step. Now I can change that, manipulate that as part of my series if I want. However, since I'm pretty happy with the data range and the thing that I have set up and it looks good, we'll just keep that. Then I hit next. Next then comes to a familiar looking page, right? Here's my titles, my axes, my grid lines, legend. We've already seen that, but we'll go ahead and give it a title anyway. We'll call this week number 4. Instrument sales. can put the category access where we can say salespeople, salespersons, I guess you could call them. And then we can say units sold for my y-axis, because remember, y's are my values going up. So there's my units sold. And so again, it just depends on how I'm doing it. Since I'm now doing the bar chart instead of a column chart, I've just flipped the z and the x and y axis here. So I click next. What's the last thing? What do you want to do with it? Do you want to place it on the sheet? Do you want as a new sheet? I can do that and then name it. Whatever I decide to do, it makes no difference. Some people just like to have the charts over to the side from the material, and then they can print them out separately. If I do, by the way, if I do as an object in sheet 1 or sheet 2 or wherever I want, you have the option when you do print to print the charts as well as the data. You just need to make sure you arrange the object so that it doesn't cover up the other data. So let's go ahead and just create a new sheet, and we'll just call this the week 4 sales chart. And then I click finish. Now I have my own separate sheet here, week 4 sales chart, and I have all my data. And here's my salespeople, Debbie, Christina, Jeremy, all these guys. The units sold, I have my legend about which day is which, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday, going down so I can see, what days, and I still get my smart tips. And it's just another part of my sheet. Now, obviously, what I might want to do is then take this, drag it behind sheet 1 here, and then rename this sheet, and I would say, we could say week 4 sales data. And then that way, we got the week 4 sales chart and the week 4 sales data. And we can, print just this separate sheet if we want, or we can print all the sheets. And it gives us quite a few more options that we can use whenever it is we are going to produce this chart. In this first of our 2 videos on charting, we started off with pretty much the basics. Took a look at how we can use the chart wizard to pick out a chart we want to use for the data that we're trying to analyze. We even saw some basic modifications that we can make, where we can change the labels and describe what it is that we're describing in the values area, which is going to be on our y-axis, and what the categories or series are will be on our x-axis. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.